ton of us, I'm thinking it might actually be nice to just go around and sort of introduce ourselves, and just, yeah, just give a little intro. So I can start. I'm Elyse. I am one of the organizers at Refresh, along with Nick and Ramla, who I just introduced, but we can still hear from them. So yeah, why don't we go with Nick and Ramla and just start going.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just chime in. So Nick Whitmoyer, I am a product designer for a company called Consensus. I'm also, along with Elyse and Ramla, an organizer of Refresh DC. Been doing it for a little bit now. And just some background for, the topic of at hand today. I do have a fair amount of experience working remote, over 10 years. And even with that experience, I still have questions, especially during a global pandemic.
Yes.
Ramla?
Sure. So I'm Ramla. I have also been working remotely, I'd say, for almost the past 4 to 5 years. I'm a product designer as well and work for a company called 15Five. And yeah, I'll pass it to John.
Hello, I'm John Croston. I do web accessibility for Department of Labor, and I also run the Accessibility DC meetup. We haven't had one in a long time, but we're working on it.
Awesome. Emma, you wanna go next?
Sure. Hello, my name is Emma. I am an interaction designer for a really small company called Perigean Technologies. And my job is actually always remote, except I come in like a couple times a month, maybe, like when COVID isn't happening, because they're located in Fredericksburg. And one of the things we're working on right now is this digital assessment tool based on concept mapping. And it's been something the company has just internally been working on for years, but it might come in handy if people actually aren't able to go to school. So we're trying to push and work a little bit faster and see if we can release a newer version in case it would be helpful for teachers. So.
That's so exciting. Yeah. Brandon, you wanna go next?
Sure. I'm Brandon Jones. I am currently a director of engineering at Mariana Tech here in DC. I've been there for less than a month, so it's been an interesting time to switch jobs. Prior to that, I was at Envision for a little over 4 years, and we were an entirely remote company, something like 1,000 people among all the different teams and all the different places. So I've got a bit of remote work under my belt, and this is definitely different than that remote work. I've been describing it as remote under duress, especially for those of us with kids at home, when it's now you're doing that stuff all day. So, yep.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, thanks. Andrew, you wanna go next?
Yeah, sure. My name's Andrew Amundson. I'm a freelance copywriter. I've worked remotely for the past few months. In terms of remote under duress, I've got a daughter who's on her own Zoom meeting right now in the next room, so I know what you guys are talking about.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew. And Carla, you wanna go?
Hi, good afternoon, guys. My name is Carla Briceno, and I am the CEO and co-founder of a growing small business based in Fairfax, Virginia called Bixel, B-I-X-A-L. We're about 125 people strong, and we do provide a full gamut of strategic communications through human-centered design, open source technology development, mostly for federal government clients, and just wanted to join and hear some new folks and hear some interesting ideas about how to do things better remotely.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm just looking at my screen. D Smith 30. Do you wanna go next? Oh, I think you're muted. There we go.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Oh, hey. Yeah, Dominick Smith. Pretty much like UI developer at CTIS. So more like government contract for NIH. So pretty much that's what I am. But also I'm kind of like transitioning out. So mostly looking at the remote possibilities and how like what's the best ways to do things. So learn from that.
Awesome. Welcome. I guess a tar with the VR headset. Do you want to introduce yourself? We're just, for those of you who just joined, we're just doing quick intros before we kind of dive into our discussion.
Yeah, sure. So my cameras are kind of weird because I don't have a webcam, so I have to use my like VR headset, and it has like these two. So that's why that's going on. So apologies.
You're ahead of your time, man. That's great.
There are two of you in this meeting, and it's kind of amazing.
One of my coworkers was like trying to cross his eyes to see if it'd be like 3D. I don't know if that works. I don't know.
It doesn't, but it's cool.
Yeah, I am an animator at the Post. That's what I do.
Cool.
Is that all? We're just saying what we do, right?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
All right, and then next is Mitra. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Oh, and you're on mute if you're trying to talk. Oh no, can't hear. Well, we'll come back. So let's go on to Mohsin. Am I saying that right?
Hey, yeah, what's up, guys? How are you? Good to see you all. Good morning from where I am, or good afternoon where you are. I came out to be with my parents 4 weeks ago almost now, in California. I'm actually in my high school bedroom, so this is where I spent my early days. Anyways, back on the East Coast, I worked remote for almost 6 years, but mostly doing sales. This is my first couple of months doing IT support. So I do web services support for the USDA. And we just went remote 2 weeks before the lockdown, so I got a head start on this. But it's different. Yeah.
Nice.
Anyways, enjoy. I'm still working, so on my video and use you guys as a podcast. So good luck.
This is what I've always wanted, to be the podcast that people are listening to while they're doing work. This is awesome. All right, Blake. Oh,
Blake
you're
had
muted.
something in chat.
Yeah, Blake left a message in chat.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, if you
and so
all.
he says, yeah, he just says, "Hi all, I'm in a room with active kids, so I'll introduce myself here." He's Blake Lamb, and currently in the midst of a career change. Interesting timing. Looking for a UX design role, likely remote at least to start.
Awesome. Yeah, that's totally fine. And if anyone would rather just put their intros in the chat, totally fine. Understand. Do you want to, let's do Randy next.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm also kind of career transitioning from kind of traditional BA analyst, organizational improvement, process improvement to UX designer. So just kind of had actually started networking. I think I missed some of your Refresh DC meetings, and so you were kind of on the list. And since I haven't been able to go out in person in a lot of meetups, I've just been keeping track of who's been having these. So this is my first opportunity touching base with Refresh DC. I know you have. Do you have like quarterly events? I think you have some like events that are like not monthly, but kind of quarterly or semi-annually, aren't they?
Yeah. So yeah, I can do my spiel. Also, I'm getting a bit of an echo. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, so Refresh, we have been around since 2006. We do monthly events where we just get together. We're a group of designers, developers, strategists, content folks, writers from the DC area, and we just get together every month. Usually have a speaker come in and give a talk on something related to our work, working in DC. A lot of different topics, but this is our second remote event. And so we're kind of enjoying experimenting a little bit with what this format lets us do. And so this month just wanted to keep things informal and just have a group discussion about how all of this is affecting our work, how it's actually going. I think we've all read tons and tons of articles and been told a lot of things. I just wanted some time to just sort of hear from everyone, share advice, swap stories. So yeah, but that is Refresh. And yeah, happy you could join us. Welcome. I think we have one more. Is that Paul?
Yeah, it's Paul. I just got in a little late. I'm Paul Hyland. I've been coming to Refresh events on and off for years, but it's probably been a year or two since the last one I've attended. I do web work and other things with interactive technology. Right now I'm working for a company called Higher Digital that does sort of digital transformation assessments and consulting for higher education clients. And we also have an assessment tool that we're building to sort of automate the assessment side of things. It's actually released, but we're still working on it too. And so I manage the website and I do front-end development on that tool and do some other things too. I'm also recently started as an adjunct at UMGC. So awesome. I'm teaching a course on digital media and society right now.
Wow. Yeah, interesting, very good timing. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, they're and UMGC actually is, at least on the faculty side, is all set for this distancing thing, distance learning, because it's mostly built as that anyway. They have, cool. They have some hybrid classes where somebody stands up in a classroom for once a week, or leads a discussion in person, but most of their classes are fully online. So,
wow.
And they
That's
share.
Great.
Yeah. So I've been working at home more or less before this started, but it definitely has changed some things about interactions with people, etc.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, no, that is awesome. It's cool to see we have a good mix of folks, it sounds like, who have some experience with remote work or who are kind of new to this. And that actually kind of gets to the first question I kind of wanted to throw out there. And this is a super informal discussion, so feel free to unmute and pipe up if you'd like. And the one thing that we're kind of doing is trying to avoid the chat feature just because it can kind of distract from whoever's talking. But if you want to say something, can't quite find kind of an opening, just put it in there. We'll be kind of keeping an eye on chat so we can make sure that everyone gets a chance to talk. But yeah, I wanted to kind of start off with this question, and this is something that Nick and Ramla and I have been talking a little bit about, but just, you know, since a lot of us do have experience with remote work, I'm curious to hear kind of how you feel like this situation has changed or is different. Because I think a lot of people say, well, if you have worked remotely, then you have an advantage. You know what you're doing. But I think I've heard from a lot of folks who would say, no, this is still different. This is still challenging. There are new things that we're learning. So I wanted to, just hear, maybe Nick and Ramla can start or whoever can jump in, but would love to just hear, what have you learned that you may have been surprised to learn in this kind of in this situation?
Yeah, wow. I don't know if I've learned a lot, but
that's fair.
Yeah, but you know, I think the struggle is real. You know, for me, with working remote in the past, you know, my advice would have always been to never eat lunch at home, and always go out and socialize. You know. Or, you know, stretch your legs and go get coffee, or, you know, whatever it is, just finding little routines to get out of your home and stretch your legs, see sunshine, interact with people. And these days, well, I don't think that that's recommended. And instead, you know, I'm here eating my lunch. And so, yeah, it's just it's full of challenges. Traditionally, I would say, working from home, there's a lot less distractions, but I don't think that that's the case now either, because I think there's a lot of pent up anxiety over current events in the world, and so in terms of productivity, because of a lot of these current events, I think it's understandable that you may be distracted and you may be not as productive as you once were, or as you could be even working remotely. I say this from my perspective, not having children running around in the background and having to take care of them. And I can only imagine for the parents, especially of young children, how many challenges they're dealing with in addition to that with their day-to-day at work. Ramla, did you have any thoughts to add?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what you said, Nick. I've also been working from home a lot more, or I have been working from home, but strictly from home during this crisis a lot more. And I think I've learned a lot about myself and things that I didn't really realize I needed to stay sane. I'm generally like an introvert. I actually like working from home because I like having a quiet place where I can focus. I don't like having a lot of coworkers around to distract me. But I realized that I use like a lot of breaks throughout my week. Like I would get coffee a couple of times a week. I would work from a coffee shop. I would get lunch with friends. I would even co-work with friends who were teleworking. And I realized having all of those really balanced out my week. And so now being strictly at home, I'm realizing how much I really did need that. So just trying to find pockets where I can replace those with other habits. So like if I can't go meet a friend, trying to take a walk. I've also learned to like really be really strict with my actual calendar. Like one big tip I started doing is on my work calendar, I actually would put like sign on and sign off, because I found that like if I didn't do that, then people would sometimes schedule calls like before and after I would start my day. I would tend to work a lot later than I normally would work. So kind of creating some semblance of like a work environment, but like having a schedule on the table, I feel like has been helping me a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great point, Ramla. There's a lot of psychologists, especially right now, that are weighing in and suggesting, recommending, establishing a routine and being able to do that for your own sanity and mental health. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I feel like a lot of people, it's hard to establish a routine, because generally, I think when we're not in the middle of a pandemic, our routines are kind of established for us. We have our work, we have other commitments that we have, and we just don't really have to think about building a routine. But yeah, I'm curious what others think about that. Have you also kind of struggled with kind of falling into a rhythm? Yeah, what do folks think?
I'll just jump off on what Ramla was saying about the calendar stuff, which I've found important now more than ever, but even before when I was just working remotely, like setting working hours in Google Calendar. It'll like kind of gently nudge anyone who tries to schedule something outside of that. Like, hey, that's outside of their working hours, especially if you have coworkers in other time zones. It gets even more important. But for me, with kids at home, my wife and I, we're both working full time, and we're trying to figure out how to. Oh, there she is. She's waving in the background.
Hey.
Trying to figure out how to balance that and take on those roles at home with the kids. And so we're trying to like block off our schedules at like different times so that we can each spend time with the kids, like morning, afternoon blocks sort of things. So I'm interested if anyone else has experimented with anything like that or has other ideas. We both switched jobs in the last 2 months. So we're both like ramping up at new places, which is, a lot of overhead in the first place. So we're trying to really like find that good balance. And I don't think we're getting there. I don't think we've quite gotten there yet. So if anyone has advice on that as well, I'm all ears.
Yeah, does anyone else have any other parents or people who are dealing with trying to kind of block out calendars, or any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I've been using my work calendar as my general purpose calendar, at least during working hours, to make sure that other obligations I have during the day are blocked off as well. But I like the idea. We use Outlook, but it does the same thing with working hours and non-working hours. I think this is just, since I've mostly been working from home for a few years now, it's still focused in, I think, on the need for creating a routine. Because at the same time, you don't get out, you don't get to go work at Starbucks or the cool cafe downtown or whatever, instead of breaking up the monotony of being here. So, and it's been something that, like getting into better habits about balancing life and getting things done in all aspects of my life has been a struggle I've had. I mean, I'm not exactly the most structured person, but I'm working on trying to make that a little more of a reality now that it's all right here.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone, and feel free to just, build on whatever is being said, but I'm kind of curious. This is something I've been thinking about. I don't have kids, but I'm working really closely with coworkers who do, and it's been really helpful when they block off their calendar, so I know, I'm not going to schedule a meeting there. But like yesterday, a coworker asked, "Hey, can I move this meeting? My kids really need to get outside." I didn't think I would need to take them out at this point, but I do. And he seemed a little bit, kept apologizing and seemed really stressed about it. And I was like, dude, it's completely fine. But it kind of made me wonder if there are ways for me to be more proactive about supporting coworkers who are parents. I'm just wondering, do you all have any kind of advice on that front? Is there anything that a coworker has done for you that has been kind of helpful in that?
Do you add some sort of statement in your invite that, hey, if we need to move this because of something at the house, kids, whatever, we can reschedule this, and kind of, be a little more, put that in your email so they don't feel as bad even asking?
Yeah. Which is weird because I did, but maybe he missed it or something. Because I was like, or like adding a little ticker that says like flexible or something. Or maybe even just like putting it in the title, like, this is flexible, you can move this. I think that's a good point.
In my office, I have to actually schedule blocks of time for me or for my kids. Otherwise, the culture is like constant meetings. So I have to proactively set aside time ahead so that I know I won't get booked, because they just love scheduled meetings. And yeah, that's my strategy.
Richard, I know you joined after we did some of the introductions. Where are you based at? What are you focusing on? Where do you work?
I'm in Arlington, and I work for the National Council on Aging. So it's a nonprofit. So we were ahead of the curve. We ended it before it was formally announced but luckily everything's digital for us. We're as far as IT, we're all on Zoom. We all have Office, and I'm using tools that are in the cloud. I guess the thing I'm struggling with is they say spend time with your family. They say, put yourself first. But meanwhile, my deliverables are not pushed back every week. They still have the same expectations. Meanwhile, it's like 2 kids, stress, literally my coworkers had a member family dying. So it's like a lot of us are dealing with things, and it's like, but the expectations of when our deliverables are all due are still like the same. So I'm kind of like struggling there, like how to push back.
Do you work in an agile project management?
Yeah,
type
and
of
that's the thing.
process?
It's like, we have these sprints, but it's like, it's tougher to meet these. It was already tough before this, and now it's just tougher being like a small organization that's trying to do a huge amount, plus then COVID and.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one recommendation I would have there, and that's totally understandable. I've with my team as a product designer, I've actually done a lot in terms of project management and implementing an agile process. And one suggestion I would have there is in the sizing and planning stages of agile and of the work that needs to be done, really assessing how much time it's going to take and how much time you can give. And I think that's a big part of the process. If it were a different type of process, I would recommend, I'm not sure what to recommend, but asking for that time, and for anyone that needs it, also making sure that they're able to voice their concerns, would probably go a long way.
Yeah, no, that's definitely tough though. I don't know if anyone else is kind of experiencing that. The fact that work is continuing on as normal when everything else is not normal. Yeah, any thoughts on that?
I would say our tech team had a very aggressive thing to get done by the end of May, and their boss is still pushing them harder, even harder than they were before with all this. And a lot of the team members have, 1 to 2, 3 kids and family at the house and all that. So they're feeling a bit stressed themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And sorry, Carla. Yeah, you were gonna.
Well, I would just say, as an owner of a company, that I would say we are all extremely aware that people are having to juggle the reality of having kids at home, et cetera. And I think throughout our company, everybody's sort of hyper aware of that. But also, I'm not sure who can qualify for this, but there is funding, COVID-related funding, for companies to tap into for employees and families that actually need to take time off because of the pandemic to take care of their children. So if anybody needs references to that information and they want to share that with their higher ups, I'm not sure exactly if nonprofit organizations can use it, what have you, but our HR team has been spreading it widely and reminding people that if they do need to use it, whether it not be a doctor's appointment or they actually have COVID, or they need to take time off to take care of their kids and balance things out. There are options that companies can look at to make
that's good to know. That's really good to know, Carla.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I'll see if I can pull some information up and share it with you.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, because we can follow up and kind of send out an email with resources that we talk about in here and just sort of gather those. So yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, we got an email from HR about that and had to read and sign a document of what the company's policy was against what the federal government was saying. Wow. So it is out there.
Yeah.
We didn't make anybody sign any letters.
I think they wanted us to sign them just so they know we read them.
Okay. That's understandable. I can see the benefit in that.
We'll allow it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm curious, has anyone found that they actually like the working from home? Someone who maybe doesn't have as much experience with it and this is their first time. Is anyone kind of loving it and feeling like, wow, okay, John?
I've been liking it a little bit. We were able to work from home, but everybody used to show up at my desk all the time. So I couldn't get it. So I've been enjoying that. I've been enjoying the extra sleep with not having the whole commute. And I've also spent more time, at least instead of working at my desk for lunch, taking the time and at least walking around the neighborhood for 20 minutes or so and then having stuff. So that's helped in a lot of ways. And met neighbors that I've lived 3 doors down for 15 years that I'd never met because of everybody just using their car.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. I mean, I will say that I have not worked remotely. I don't think I mentioned this in my intro. I work at Viget, so we are a digital agency, and so we have a fairly flexible work from home policy, but I just never really used it because I prefer being in the office. So this is kind of my first experience with remote working, and I have kind of liked a lot of things about it. I feel like the first week was a really busy one, and I felt like I was able to focus more. There are definitely downsides. I would prefer to not be in this time, but I feel like I'm hopefully learning things that I can, do more of when we are allowed to go back in the office. Maybe I will work from home a little bit more if I need to focus. But yeah, anyone else want to chime in on that?
Yeah, well, Higher Digital has been, we have a WeWork office in Tyson's that doesn't even have nearly enough desks for everyone. So it's just a place to go when you're there for a meeting or something like that and you want to hang out and work some more. So as far as the people working on our technology, we basically have worked from home, but we have a bunch of consultants too, and they're based all over the country and stuff. So they used to spend all their time on client sites. And a few weeks ago, I think a week before everyone else closed shop, our CEO said, no more, everyone has to work from home, no more business travel. So they've been adjusting mightily, I'm sure. And they had to tell all their clients, I'm not coming into the office anymore. But I think that all went pretty smoothly. We have a bunch of people who have I have a teenage daughter who's kind of at home all the time. That's complicated, but there are other people with smaller kids around and they're sort of bugging them or sitting on their lap during meetings. It's something we sort of take as a matter of course. So it's nothing that has interfered at all. But we're a small company, so we sort of all know each other pretty well and stuff. So it's probably more challenging for a big organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carla.
I would just chime in and say that Bixel, prior to this all coming to fruition, was about a quarter remote, and we're very flexible with people working from home if that's what they want to do, even if they're located close by. But I believe that there's a silver lining here, and I know that's hard to say. There are a lot of people suffering in this situation. I think we are all very privileged to be in a situation where we can work from home. But I believe that this is going to create a situation where, especially like federal government agencies and such, this is like forced change management. And there's a lot of negative, a lot of very sad things happening, but this is going to force some serious change here that is in the long run going to be beneficial for us all. I actually started, if anybody wants to connect on LinkedIn, I started a thread where I asked people to chime in on what they're grateful for. And I'm trying to keep that going. So feel free to connect and chime in. Because I believe fundamentally that, and I'm from California, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm a little, I believe that focusing on what we're grateful for only brings more of what we're grateful for. But although we're cooped up and trying to get out and go running or bicycling or get some exercise every day, it's pretty cool to have the opportunity to be on these calls and meet interesting people that I would have probably never had the chance to have this intimate of a connection with and like get to know. Last night I was on a international development focused happy hour and connected with like 4 of the people on that. And now I'm gonna have like a boatload of half-hour video conference calls for the next 6 weeks. But it's so wonderful to make connections with people that I know Paul from eons ago, but I haven't reconnected with him in quite some time. Nick and I sort of know each other. So it's really cool to be able to make connections that with your neighbors or these cool events that are happening online that bring a certain level of intimacy past just showing up at where do the refresh things typically happen? That office. So there are a lot of good things to be grateful for, and by focusing on those, I think the silver lining of seeing where this whole situation will bring a lot of positive developments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll shut up now.
No, that's great. That's great input. And Carla, I think, with everything that you're describing, it makes me think about how the future of work and how that's fundamentally going to shift after this. Obviously we've got several months of this global pandemic and trying to find effective treatments. Hopefully people having antibodies will make them immune from this, and then eventually a vaccine. But once all of that's done, those jobs, those companies that said, "Oh, we really can't do remote," they're realizing they can. And that, like, I've had conversations with potential employers. In fact, a recruiter reached out to me a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Well, listen, I just moved back to the Washington, D.C. area a year ago. I'm not interested in relocating again. So if you want to talk about remote opportunities, yeah, sure, maybe we could have conversations about that. But I look, fast forward to today, and it's like, okay, well, everybody from these companies is having to do this, and they're finding ways to do it. In fact, Twitter is a great example of a company already shifting, right? So Twitter's headquarters is based in San Francisco, and they are, their cost per square foot for commercial real estate in San Francisco is just getting out of control for them. They're growing at a very rapid rate. And so even before the pandemic and the shelter-in-place orders from the state governor, they were already, starting to think about hiring for remote employees. And now, the CEO is saying that, yeah, we're going to do a lot more of this in the future, even more than we were thinking previously. So this is demonstrating how we can move forward and work very effectively, and even almost balance that life and work sort of ratio, where if you have the flexibility of, like, to John's point, if we're not spending hours getting ready and commuting, that gives us a little bit more time at home to take care of personal responsibilities as well.
Yeah.
Also,
go ahead, John.
Also, something else to think about. I was on a disability awareness group phone call for the Department of Labor yesterday, and there was a few people on that found they were having troubles with all the remote working due to the fact that they relied on the upstairs cafeteria at the office for 2 meals. So they had difficulty making meals for themselves. And then another person that usually had an assistant to help them around with because of their disability took 3 or more weeks, I think it was, to be able to get the assistant to come to the house instead of just working from home without any help or not working. So there's other things to think about as well.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to chime in, sorry. We just started a project, an initiative with the Social Security Administration, and sorry for the noise. I'm going to ask somebody to hang on and hold off on the blender for a second. But we just started a project with the Social Security Administration where we're doing research, both sort of service design and CX focused research for the Social Security Administration on 3 key transactions that they offer to the American public. Obtaining a new Social Security card, checking benefits. I'm not sure exactly what the third one is, but so we negotiated this contract all pre-COVID, and then boom, COVID hits. Our plans were to go and conduct research in SSA field offices. So you guys can imagine the tricky balancing act and figuring out how to now do this discovery work, 4 months of discovery work with a heavy bureaucracy like SSA, and reaching out to stakeholders and supposedly going out and really understanding users around these transactions, et cetera. But we were able to pivot and rethink our research plan and get that into place and extend the discovery period by a couple months. So wish us luck. It should be interesting, but it's just an example of how our new reality is requiring us to think very creatively about how we can do things without doing that in-person research or having tremendous access to stakeholders in a very large bureaucracy.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think I'm curious to hear if anyone else has sort of, on whatever scale, found some interesting ways to kind of problem solve in this kind of remote setting. Yeah, like how have you gone about even just collaborating with people in a way that still feels like you're in person? Yeah, curious to hear what others think.
Yeah, I'll just weigh in. So, Carla, I can't speak for the client, but coming from Consensus, where I'm employed, it's a remote first company. We're dealing with blockchain, which is an emerging technology. We're constantly looking at ways to facilitate meetings. We're also looking at research and doing a lot of this remote. So in the chat window, I posted a link to Miro.com, MIRO.com. That's been a really powerful tool for essentially whiteboarding, with people remotely. And yeah, I mean, I just spent a few minutes with it the other day and was able to do like a card sorting exercise with a subject matter expert to get more context around the problem that I was trying to solve. But also,
we are using that, but you're right on. We are using Miro on SSA.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, and it's, remote comes with all sorts of challenges, but there are some really powerful tools coming out there, which are awesome. And this is even one of those things where you could be in the same room, in the same, just working on two different computers, collaborating on a document like this as well. Which is kind of exciting. So yeah, I'm curious if anyone else has suggestions on ways to collaborate and do some of these things remote.
This is very specific, but in a previous refresh meeting, somebody told me about Figma, the design tool, and I introduced that to my company and we've been using it a ton, and it's great because it's like the Google Docs of prototyping tools, and you can see everyone's cursors going around and you can be editing simultaneously. And so we'll have like somebody else go in and edit the copy as I'm like moving around like UI elements and stuff. And that has worked out really well.
Yeah, I will say as a writer, Figma has been sort of my, it's been a game changer since we started using it, just working with designers. It's so great. And so yeah, I second that. Figma is awesome. I was actually wearing my Figma t-shirt this morning.
Oh, that's right. You went to the conference.
Yeah, I got to go to their conferences right before people started canceling conferences. So it was really lucky. But they are really great. And I love that they definitely have an emphasis on community and really fostering a sense of, reaching out and making sure that they're connected with people and actually helping them solve real problems, not just, churning out product stuff. So yeah, I'll put that in the chat, Figma, in case anyone is interested in checking that out. But yeah, any other tools that people have found?
So as a designer, we also use Figma. We actually made the switch before everything started happening. We're like mostly remote, but some folks were still in an office. So we made the move over from Sketch to Figma. One thing we've been using Figma for as a design team is design pairing. So what we'll do is that like 2 or 3 folks will hop on a Zoom call. We'll all have the same Figma file open on our screen, and we'll essentially just kind of like talk to each other while we're all kind of like, updating the designs on our screens, and that's kind of made our work move a lot faster. There's also a tool called Whimsical, which is similar to Figma, but it's like for just wireframing. So you can create quick wireframes, you can do workflow maps. It's all collaborative. It's kind of like Google Docs, but for wireframing. So we use that as well. And we also use Mural, Mural. It's very similar to Miro, what Nick posted, but it's also like a quick whiteboarding tool. We've been using that to collaborate with like PMs, devs, designers at like the startup projects, just to kind of sketch ideas and kind of write notes and things like that.
Yeah, I'll just add, I love Whimsical, absolutely love it for low fidelity designs. If you're building digital software, they just have so many great like plug and play elements that you can throw in, and every time I go back and I use it some more, I feel like they're adding more capabilities to the product as well. So it's full of surprises, and I love the name as well.
Yeah, I basically stopped like designing wireframes and Sketch and Figma and just go straight to Whimsical now because it's so fast.
Whimsical looks awesome. I think I'm gonna have to try it.
They're also really good for just running remote workshops, meetings with clients. We had a big kind of brand workshop. We had a bunch of stakeholders. It was supposed to be in person. We were really stressed about doing it remote. And we used Whimsical for it, actually. We just set everybody up with kind of guest accounts. And they were able to get in there and move sticky notes around and create sticky notes, a lot like Miro. But the key thing was that with Whimsical, you can vote on things. And so there was one portion where we had to narrow a lot of things down. So we just had everyone vote. And I had no idea that feature existed, but it does. It's awesome. And yeah, they seem to be adding things all the time. So yeah, definitely check out Whimsical.
Yeah, we switched from Mural to Miro actually. We only use it mostly for like ATPs once every 8 weeks, so I could see other potential uses for it.
What is ATP?
Sorry, all team planning.
Okay.
So at the end of 4 sprints, you sort of get together and figure out what you got done, what you didn't get done, and sort of map out the next 4 sprints with the tasks you want to do. Of course, it changes over time, but I guess it's part of our methodology. I don't know. I thought it was kind of part of Scrum too, but I'm no real expert. I just use various pieces of Agile here and there. But yeah, so we have like columns for each sprint, and we have columns for different projects, and we drag sort of sticky notes over. We used to do it on a big whiteboard, but use Miro instead. But yeah, as far as Zoom, I mean, Zoom is interesting. There have been some controversies about that. I've been following a lot of how universities are dealing with this situation or not very well, and all the challenges they're facing, and blogging about that a little bit. And the Zoom, especially in higher education, but the whole Zoom bombing thing and the security issues with that have been really fascinating to keep up with. So trying to provide some advice on those sorts of things too. And the other thing is, we used to use Slack, but we moved to Teams, and we're just leaning on it more and more for sort of semi-real time, but not exactly real-time communication, but it's kind of between Zoom and email, I guess.
Yeah, I know we are actually getting close to time. So I would love to just sort of, and I know there are folks who haven't maybe talked as much, and that's completely fine. I just want to make sure that everyone has a chance to kind of chime in if they want. Any kind of final thoughts, advice for all of us, just random things that you have been surprised to kind of discover during this time that you want to share with us?
So glad I invested in a really good chair years ago.
Okay, yes.
I bought myself a Herman Miller chair, and I can't say how much that's helped.
I'm actually shopping for a new office chair, so if anyone has recommendations, pop them in the chat.
Yes, I spent too much time. I spent the first 2 weeks of working remotely, working from a bench. I don't recommend that at all. I don't know that I will ever be quite the same. but yeah, I now have a chair and it's great. Anyone want to, oh, go ahead.
I learned that webcams sell out in a pandemic. Fun fact.
But honestly, that brings me a lot of joy. So I think you're doing us all kind of a service. So that's good.
Yeah, I was looking last night. I've got a pretty decent webcam on this for me since I was working remotely, but I was looking for one for my wife. So I looked up the same one, which I think cost me like $50 when I bought it. On Amazon, it was like $250.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's insane. I'm not paying $200 for a webcam.
I was going to suggest, sorry to interrupt you, Nick, that if anybody wants to connect, include your LinkedIn profiles. It'd be lovely to connect with you all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I was going to say one thing kind of added on to that. I know some folks are saying that they're in between jobs or looking for opportunities. So one thing that we like to do at the end of refreshes is just go around and if anyone is hiring, knows of anyone who is hiring, shout that out, put it in the chat. We'd love to kind of collect those. I know that Viget, last I heard, Viget, I'll put that in the comments. I think that we are hiring for UX designers and I believe a brand strategist and some developers and engineers. So if you are looking, you can check that out. But yeah, anyone else wanna go?
I would just say, please check out our careers page. And if there are any positions that interest you, reach out, but also connect for future reference. I'm trying as much as possible to, when I meet people that are looking, use my network to help them connect and make warm connections. So trying as much as possible to help out others. That's the best thing we can do right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Carla, if you, oh, perfect. Yeah, I was just going to say, if you could put your LinkedIn, if anyone wants to share their LinkedIn profile in the chat, that would be awesome. But yeah, anyone else?
I think this has highlighted the powerful effect of storytelling. Like when you tell these horrible stats about the world, no one listens. But if you tell a story about one person's issue, one person's plight, or one person's success, it has such a bigger impact than if you say millions have this or thousands have this. That I think it really highlights, people are helping the communities and things like that. How can we utilize that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point. Any other thoughts?
I just want to say thank you so much for organizing this. And it's been great to get to know you all. And look forward to participating in a future one.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming on and for engaging. This has been really great. We always love chatting with folks before refresh events and after refresh events. It's really fun to just have a whole event. It's just us talking. So thank you all for participating and yeah, we are looking forward to our next event. Looking forward to seeing you all soon.
I did want to just chime in super quickly. So we're thinking of doing these maybe for the foreseeable future, the next few months remotely. So if any of you have a topic that you want to talk about, definitely pitch it to us. I believe our email, don't know it off the top of my head, is like refreshdc@gmail.com or something like that.
This is the test.
Yeah.
Contact at refresh.
Contact at refresh-dc.org. We'll have to work on updating.
I got it down to the .org.
We don't need the dash. We got to get rid of the dash. But yeah, thank you for pasting that in there.
Yes, if you have topics or if you want to speak, yeah, let us know. We're going to be having fun with this remote thing. Yeah. Anything else, Nick or Ramla?
Thanks for joining today. This is great. Yeah. Great discussion.
Thanks so much. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.